Hi, friends, and welcome to the GRiTT podcast. I'm Mary Werdeman. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you for being here with me. I'm so grateful to have you here. And if you are new, if you're just finding the GRiTT podcast for the very first time, I want to extend a really warm welcome to you and appreciate you for being here. And if you are returning, if you've been here before, and you have clicked that play button because you found something helpful on a prior podcast, or you're just kind of checking it out, I really appreciate your being here too. I really enjoy doing these podcasts because I really have always tried to be helpful, try to find things that help myself as I started out on my my journey. And so I'm trying to help people find those tools on their journey too. And so that's sort of what the podcast is all about. It's sharing helpful tools and information and just connection, because I think that grief needs to come up and out, and it needs connection. It needs to be heard, it needs to be seen, and it needs to be honored. And I see you, I hear you, and I honor you for being here today. So thank you very much. And if you have been following me, then you might recall that I've been reading Tom Zuba's books. Tom's work has been instrumental in my healing. I'm still healing. I'll continue healing for the rest of my life because, grief comes in many, many different forms. And it happens continuously because grief is really in the internal response that you have to the end of a dream. And that happens a lot. It's happening now, So and that's what I've been doing recently. I've been reading from Tom's work because it's been so helpful for me. And I just really believe that it's helpful in general, whether you're with whatever kind of loss you might be grieving, whether it's the death of a beloved, or if it's the end of a career, or a health diagnosis, or a divorce, the end of a relationship. Whenever we attach to something in our lives and that attachment ends for whatever reason, we grieve. So these books have been really helpful to me, and I did read Permission to Mourn. So you could go back to the podcast and find every chapter from Tom's first book called Permission to Mourn, which is available on Amazon, as is his second book called Becoming Radiant. And so you can just go ahead and find all of those podcasts there, hit subscribe, and you can just be notified whenever there's a new podcast. So again, I've been reading from Becoming Radiant, and I did the introduction and chapter 1. Today I'm going to be reading chapter 2, and we'll have a little bit of a discussion about that. It's a great chapter. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and read it, and I'll just talk a little bit about it and share a few thoughts, and we'll call it a day. Okay. So here is Becoming Radiant, chapter 2, The Choice. There is no going back ever to the person you were before the person you loved dearly died. Many, many, many parts of that person, the person you were before, died too. There is no going back. You now have 3 choices. Number 1, you may choose to remain stagnant, stuck between. Eventually, you will rot from the inside out. You will have much company in this place, this stagnant place. And yes, This is a choice which you are free to make. Number 2, you may choose to fall deeper and deeper and deeper still into the dark pit, where anger, sadness, regret, hopelessness, despair, guilt, vengefulness, and hatred will eat you alive eventually. This does not just happen. This too is a choice you make over and over and over again. And yes, you will have plenty of company here too. Number 3, or you could choose to live life, your new life, a combination of who you were before and who you are consciously choosing to become now, day by day by day. You can choose to live life, your life, not in spite of the fact that someone you dearly love has died, but because of the fact that someone you dearly love has died. Yes, this too is a choice, an often difficult choice at first, a choice that requires a tremendous amount of work and courage and tenacity and determination, and a willingness to open to grace. I believe it is grace that brought you here to this book, to this page, to the reading of these words. I believe it is grace that will light your way if and when you say yes. So say yes. Say yes over and over and over again. At times, you will discover that saying no is actually your way of saying yes to you. There is a small, growing circle of humans making this choice. They are choosing to say yes to life, their life, following the death of their beloved. They are saying yes because when they say no, they realize that they're creating pain on top of pain on top of pain. And they have decided that they have experienced enough pain. They have experienced enough pain. You will recognize each other by your gentleness with life, by your willingness to forgive everyone for everything, every time. You will recognize each other by your compassion and your love. But most of all, you will recognize each other by the way you feel when you are in each other's presence. There will be a radiant light shining from your eyes where there was darkness and despair and hopelessness once. You will feel more alive than you have ever felt before when you are in each other's company. And you will fall to your knees in gratitude as you remember a time when you did not believe that feeling so alive would ever be possible again. Say yes. Choose to live. Choose to live your life, your new life. Say yes to becoming radiant. It's exactly why you came to the planet. So that was chapter 2, the choice. So I just have a few thoughts, a few questions actually. If you're new to grief, if you've just been thrown in to the deep dark pit, or if your journey has just begun, do you feel like you don't have a choice? Do you feel like you don't have a choice at all? Because what I find so encouraging about this chapter is that Tom is suggesting that we do have a choice, that we could decide to remain stagnant, or we could choose to fall deeper, or we could choose to do grief the new way. And what does it look like to remain stagnant? What does it look like to remain stuck between? Does it look like avoidance maybe? Does it look like pushing down maybe? Does it look like numbing out perhaps? Choosing not to feel anything? Because eventually you'll rot from the inside out here. And a lot of people choose to do that. They just don't want to deal with it. They just don't want to feel. And what about the choice number 2 of choosing to fall deeper and deeper? Is that giving into your anger? Is that where you sit and you act out the shoulda, woulda, couldas? You torture yourself? Is that where you go through what happened over and over and over again and beat yourself up and say things to yourself like they died too young, or they were stolen from you, or I should have saved them, or I'm a terrible mother? My job as their dad was to protect them. That seems to me to be going deeper and deeper into the pit, torturing yourself for something that you had no control over, or that that happened, that you won't let yourself off the hook for. Or choice number 3, choosing to live, choosing to lean into your grief, choosing to sit with those feelings, understanding that each feeling has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? Facing those feelings head on and forgiving whatever needs to be forgiven, whether it's yourself or your beloved or life itself. That's doing grief the new way. And when you meet someone who's doing grief the new way, you recognize them. You recognize that connection and you feel alive, because as you move through your grief, as you lean into the teacher that grief is, you learn to become a new you. You become a version of yourself that is a combination of who you were and who you've learned to become. Grief can be your greatest teacher. It can crack you open and teach you things you never could have dreamt of learning. You can learn to lean into your grief and listen to your grief and listen to the teacher and become radiant, to become who you never were before, to become who you came here to be. So you do have a choice. You can stay stagnant, numb out your feelings. You can torture yourself for as long as you feel necessary. My hope is that at some point you'll realize that you've suffered enough and you did not come here to the planet to suffer. You came here to be radiant. And so did I. So did I. So did you. So with that, I'm going to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining me today. I'm grateful beyond words that you decided to tune in and to listen or watch. If this has been helpful, please subscribe to either the GRiTT podcast on where all podcasts are available, or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Trying something new here a little bit, trying to make it as easy as possible to hear this work. Some people like to watch, some people like to listen more, so I'm trying to give you a little bit of both options here. So again, thank you so much for being here, and as I prepare to sign off, I just want you to know that I wish you so much grace, so much peace, and I'm sending you so much love on your journey, on your grief journey, on your grief path, and on your life path, on your path to becoming radiant. So take good care. And again, thank you so much for watching.